This past weekend was very bittersweet for me because I went to the Indianapolis Regional, I played Altergeist. I played what is probably the best Altergeist list I've ever come up with. It's one of the, I think it's the second list in the last year of playing Altergeist where after the event I felt like I didn't need to make any changes. The last time this happened was YCA Chicago, where I unfortunately lost on the bubble in the last round, which is still, like, thinking back on it, that's like peak Altergeist for me, right? Like, there's YCA Chicago where I lost in the last round, but it was still so close. There's like the Columbus Regional that was just a couple weeks before that YCA Chicago where I lost in the last round to miss in the top 8. There was the ARG Invitational where I actually did manage to top that event. That's like the ARG version of our WCQs. And overall, I've just had such a fun year with Altergeist. It's the longest I've ever played a deck. And what's cool is that looking back on like those early builds like a year ago, and not only like just the builds, but just how I was playing the deck, the types of combos that I thought were possible, and the types of combos that I would later on discover, it's just so cool to see how much I've grown in all of these like months and months and months of playing the same strategy for a variety of different formats and different metagames. But I think it's finally time for me to move on. I think this might be the last Altergeist profile, at least for the time being, just because like at the Indy Regional and kind of like at YC Chicago, I played to the best of my ability. It's two of the events where I felt like I really didn't make any real misplays other than maybe like the actual deck choice itself, which is kind of why I'm switching decks. But there's always events where I look back and I try to say, okay, what were my big misplays? I think a lot of people don't do this, but I always try to ask myself, not so much to make excuses, but to learn for next time. And because I played Altergeist so much, as I've played them more and more, I make less and less misplays when we're talking about dealing with the actual cards, because at this time it's all muscle memory. Even the really obscure combos are muscle memory because I've done them so many other times at so many other events. And this was an event just like YC Chicago where I looked back and said I built the best possible deck that I could play with the context of Altergeist, and also I felt like I didn't make any misplays. But sometimes it's not enough. In the case of Altergeist, you'll have games, anyone that plays Altergeist know that you'll have games where you just won't draw a monster card, or you'll just draw a Silk. Silk is like the most loyal monster card out there. He's always in your hand even when you don't have any other cards. He's there, he has 800 attack, and that's not a lot. It doesn't really get any work done, but it's he's there, he's loyal, it's whatever. You don't draw like the Miluseek or the Multifaker or the Marionetter or the Spoofings. There's so many cards that you can draw. There's like 12 or 11 depending on how many copies of Spoofing you play, and yet that's not enough sometimes when you compare it to other decks that have like a million starters and so many other combos. But I still love Altergeist. When they actually get to doing what they're supposed to do, and they get to comboing off with the double Hexia setup and all these different negations, it's almost unbeatable once they actually get going. But their main first turn play is normal summon a monster, set a couple back row, pass. Not very dissimilar to something like Frogs, which does a very sort of opening play that's very slow. It's more about the follow-up turns, not like the actual opening turn. But I love Altergeist, and I've loved them throughout all of this year that I played them. There's been some ups and downs, but I think I'm hanging up the coat here, or whatever. I don't know what the phrase is, but I'm putting it aside, and I'm saying I'm gonna play something else just to see, because at this Indie Regional, I didn't do a fantastic. I went 6-3, unfortunately. In 2 of those rounds, I lost to not drawing a single monster card other than one. Well, I guess in the second loss that I took, I drew 1 Silk in game 1. I won that game, actually, because Crackdown is ridiculous, by the way. That card's insane. I'll talk about that in the profile more. But I won that game, even though I just drew 1 800 attack monster. But then games 2 and 3, I didn't draw any Altergeist cards, and it's like, you can't play the game if you can't summon a monster. It's really, really difficult. Even as good as Crackdown is, and even as good as the trap cards are, it doesn't matter if you don't draw any Altergeist cards, because you can't get your own engine going. So I lost 2 rounds to that, and then in the final round, which I really wish that wasn't the final round. I really wish that wasn't the last match of Altergeist that I'm likely to play for a while now, because throughout the entire tournament, I had some really insanely fun games. Not just insane games, but insanely fun games where so many crazy plays happen. I had like a 30-minute game on with Sky Strikers, and by the way, my new deck that you'll see here, it doesn't really play any Floodgates in the game besides 1 Imperial Order, but I actually played against Strikers. I didn't draw the Order, I didn't draw Secret Villages because they were in the side deck, and I managed to grind them out, and it's just, that was really cool. That's a really exciting back and forth game. It's what I love about Yu-Gi-Oh! There was like a million turns in that game. 2 control decks just going at it full power. Well, I mean full power. I don't have a Secret Villages, and he doesn't have 3 Kagari or whatever. But overall, it was really fun. It was back and forth, and that's what I love about Yu-Gi-Oh! That's what I love about Altergeist. It slows the game down. Lots of back and forth interactions, decisions to made, and that's a cool situation for me. But it's like, if I can't do any better than what I'm doing, and I'm playing to the best of my ability with Altergeist, I think that means that the deck choice is the first play itself. And then in the last round, I lost to some of the most unlucky situations that I've seen in a row. It was a lot of unlucky stuff happening, but overall, the big thing was that in game 1 and game 3, my opponent got down to almost no cards and then top decked Card of Demise to draw 3, and that was just crushing. That was not the way I wanted to go out. I actually remember specifically in game 3 where he only had like a Dragonic Diagram on the board and nothing else, and I remember cutting his deck because he Dragonic Diagrammed the card he drew into like whatever the True Draco spell card is, True Draco Disciples, whatever, that draws 1 card. And I remember shuffling the deck and he said out loud, I really hope I draw like something good here because I don't have anything else, because he had no other cards. He was just getting that 1 draw, that was it, and if he just had a monster, it wasn't good enough. He had to draw exactly Card of Demise, and I was shuffling the deck and I was thinking about, if I give him the Card of Demise on top by sheer randomness, all I'm going to focus on is the fact that I could have just shuffled the deck a little bit differently, a little bit like just 1 more cut, and then a different card would have been on top, and then I put the deck down, and then he draws and he goes activate Card of Demise, and it was a soul crushing defeat. And that's just Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's not so much an Altergeist problem as it is just that's luck, and that happens, and it's not his fault. I mean, he's gonna play Card of Demise. That's what his deck, that's one of the reasons you want to play True Draco, is that they have access to a card that's so powerful like that. But it's just, that wasn't how I wanted to go out. I wanted to go out against like a meta strategy, which I played a lot of, or like a different rogue strategy, something that wasn't so luck based. I would have rather just been like outplayed instead of just like, oh, top deck Card of Demise, GG. It was pretty sad. But overall, I've had so much fun with Altergeist. I don't want to dwell too much on the past of what the bad beat stories and all that kind of stuff, but I had a lot of fun with Altergeist. I think this list is really, really solid. I think going forward, at least for the next couple events, I'm going to a lot of events this month, multiple regionals. There's like YCS Knoxville and the WCQ, obviously. I'm going to try out some different strategies. I might not play them as well as I played Altergeist, but if the deck itself is more powerful, it'll be easier for me to be successful, or at least that's the plan. So you'll see some other decks coming out in the next couple weeks here when I go to these regionals. Probably won't be Altergeist unless I really, really can't play those other decks because I'm so stuck ingrained with Altergeist, but I really want to try to branch out and play something different. Anyway though, hopefully you enjoyed the discussion here. Let's move on to the deck profile portion of this video. And here we are, the end of an era, the final, probably last Altergeist deck profile that I'm going to do, at least the last Altergeist profile I'm going to do for a little while. We're going to talk about some of the different stuff here. Like I said, the main difference between this build and other builds is that I really felt that without Skystrakers in the metagame, that you could get away with not playing any Floodgates in the main besides Imperial Order. The main reason is that like when you play Floodgates, it's like really awkward. A lot of the times they're not good going second, so if you're unlucky with dice rolls like me, obviously like you're not gonna draw the Floodgates at the right time because you really want them when you're going first. Also, like some Floodgates are better against some matchups, so it's like you could draw Secret Village against the Danger Thunder deck and then like doesn't really do anything. You could draw Summon Limit against Skystrakers, doesn't really do anything. So I felt that without playing any Floodgates and just focusing on Altergeist cards and good trap cards, you could play the most well-rounded Altergeist deck, and overall I'm really happy with that decision. And even though I had no Secret Villages in the main, I still beat both the Skystriker opponents that I played against, so I felt that it went really, really well. So we have 3 copies of Marionetter, 3 copies of Multifaker, 3 copies of my Luseek. The only reason, well, not the only reason, but the biggest reason I play this deck is because of this card. This is like, there's no other deck out there that has a card like this that, I know it sounds dumb, but I think this card is what really gets in there. It breaks the boards, it searches, it's a starter, it's an extender, it's everything that you want in a card. It's the best card in the deck and my favorite card in the deck. Then you have 2 copies of Silk, 1 copy of Concrete. This card was so loyal, it is just ridiculous. It's like it knew it was like the last time I was gonna play this card, because man, I drew this card a lot. Even when I sided one out in like games 2 and 3, just so I didn't draw it so much, I still drew it in the opening hand. Just ridiculous. But those are the Altergeist cards. I love them all. I probably could talk about these cards for hours. There's so many different interactions with them. It's kind of crazy to think about, but maybe another time. Then we have 3 copies of Ash Blossom, most generic hand trap, obviously. 2 copies of Veiler. I wasn't going to play this. There's I'll show it later on. There's 2 traps that I'm playing 2 of, and I felt like the night before I was not going to win a lot of dice rolls, and I put in the Veilers instead of a 3rd copy of either of those 2 traps. I think if you think you're going to get lucky at the event and go first a lot, then you don't want to play these Veilers, because the cards that these replace are much better when they go first. But if you're going to lose a lot and go second, this card is like really important for game 1 to not just get comboed off like me. Then we have 3 copies of Pot of Greed. Wow, this deck can play Pot of Greed. You must have to play it. Well, no, because it turns out that even though this deck can play Pot of Greed and Guru Control can play Pot of Greed and no other deck can, oh wait, the best deck of the format, Dangerous Thunder Dragons, they can play Pot of Greed that has an upside, and that's really sad. But yeah, maybe if Sekka's Light decks ever go out of fashion, like this card will be really good again because, yeah, the decks that can play this card in a format where people aren't playing Sekka's Light, they have a huge advantage. But when everyone else is playing Sekka's Light, or a lot of people are, it doesn't seem as good when you get to draw 2. But this card is obviously insane. 2 Super Poly. Is this a tech option? Probably. I don't know if people play this. I remember when this card was at 1, I played it and it was like okay, but at 2, and especially now because I didn't think Skysagers would be terrible, but I thought that a lot of other people would just stop playing them because of the Kagari hit. So I felt that they were going to be less popular, which they were for sure. They were around and I still played 2 of them, but this card is good against any deck playing Dangers or Dark Monsters. Like I played against Pendulums, and this could have been used against like a Borreload Savage Dragon, and then it was used at one point against a Mythical Beast Jackal or whatever. That's a dark, right? Is that Jackal? Whichever one negates monster effects, it's like one of them. I don't know. I don't really... Those Pendulum cards, I played against that deck twice, and I still have no clue what any of those cards do. I just tried to negate as much as possible, but... and then also you can use it against Salamangreat. So it seems like a really good tech option. A lot of people were playing this card, and it looked really, really solid. Then we have 1 copy of the Loyal 1-for-1. Well, not so loyal. Not as loyal as Silk, but this card is really insane when you draw. If you draw this card, you'll probably just win that game because it helps you combo off, it helps you break boards going second, gets you to the best card in the deck, Miluseek, it's whatever. 2 Spoofing, 2 Protocol, 1 Manifestation, the classic ratio. I feel like Spoofing is still not the greatest card. You still want to side it out going second, especially against any deck playing Thunder Dragon Colossus. The main reason is that this card is so bad against like any backer removal like Twin Twisters. It's bad against the Dino Wrestler. It's bad against Red Reboot because like you can't lose that much value. You have to put the card back for cost and they just destroy it, and then now you've lost 2 cards. That really sucks. It's hard to win those games. So going second, or just in games 2 and 3 in general, this card still usually comes out, but in game 1 when those cards aren't in the deck yet, I think it's pretty good, which is something that I might have overlooked when I cut it from the deck originally. So now I'm back. Why I was wrong about personal spoofing, no. But and then as far as the other cards, that's like the standard ratio for those. I think you probably could get away with 1 Protocol, but you'd be more reliant on drawing the Marionetter, so you just play 2. And it's like, it's cool because if you draw 2 Protocol, you can just use them for each other. 3 copies of Impermanence. If you draw these cards, you'll probably win a lot of games, especially if you draw it with Faker. One of the biggest reasons to play this deck still is Impermanence into Faker. That play is just ridiculous. Bouncing cards is something that most people are not used to playing against when they go first. I mean, you're going to play against hand traps, but there's no hand trap that other than like, Multifigure's in a hand trap, but there's no other card out there that on your opponent's first turn, you can bounce their cards. They just don't expect that at all. So when you can like Impermanence something like bounce their Colossus, they're just like, what is going on? So that card's pretty insane. 3 Crackdown. Wow, was this card overhyped? No, it was not. This card is ridiculously strong. I can't believe, like, my expectations for this card were so high, and yet they were still surpassed. Every single time I drew this card, it was the best card in my hand. It triggered Multi-Faker. It helped me break boards. I can't believe, gosh, this card is so good. If you're still playing Altergeist, more power to you, but you have to be playing through this card. I even think it's good in, like, other decks. There were some Salamangreat players playing it. Like, my friend played it as well, and he said it was really good. This card is like the best card for me personally with the decks that I play out of Dark Neostorm. This card is so good. It's just insane. It helps you break boards. It steals monsters to use for link materials. Gosh, this card is nuts. This card is not overhyped. This card is absolutely ridiculous. It might even, I mean, not on my channel, but on other channels, it might even be like underhyped right now. This card is ridiculous. If you were playing a deck that can play trap cards, you need to be playing 3 Crackdown. So the 2 cards that I played 2 of instead of 3 of because of the Veilers were Solemn Strike and Lost Wind. If you think you're going to go first a lot, these cards are insane if you play 3 copies of them, because these are like some of the best value traps in this deck, especially Lost Wind. It's so good. I played at AirG Chicago, and it was just like one of the best cards in my deck. Played it again here. These are like the cards that you want to have against like every deck going first or second, which is super important. Instead of playing like Floodgates and stuff, you just play good trap cards to trigger multi multi-figure with, and combo with your other Altergeist setups and stuff. You just play a control deck, not a floodgate deck, and it's a really big difference there, actually. But these cards are just like ridiculous. I love all these cards. They're very good cards. I know people don't necessarily play Lost Winds, but it's a super cool card because it gives you 2 triggers off a multi-figure, just gets you extra value in the matchups where you need it the most. Last 2 1-ofs, 1 Judgment, 1 Order. Yeah, I mean, I didn't cut the order. There's no real reason to cut the order because it's just a 1-of, and when you draw it, you usually just like win the game instantly. Good going first or second. It's a really solid card. So that's the Altergeist main deck list, 40 cards. Then we have the extra deck, which is actually pretty different because, well, a couple cards different because I had to make room for some Crackdown Link monsters that I could make. So we have 3 Hexia, 2 Prime Banshee, 2 Linkribo, 1 Clarenrushka, 1 Hita. Oh my god, this card's so good with Crackdown. You just take fire monsters. You take like cards like Nightmare Phoenix sometimes. You take like anything. Like I took like an Ignis Heat against True Draco and made this card and then summon the Ignis back. That was insane. That's a lot of damage. You can just do so much unfair stuff with this card in this deck when you take fire monsters. Basically, the idea is that you take a fire monster with Crackdown, make Hita, because it only needs 1. It needs 2 monsters, including a fire monster, and then you just special summon the monster you just used to make the Hita in the first place. It's just like a free 1850, and then also lets you attack with the guy that you stole the Crackdown because it's like it's sent to the grave and then revived. So this card's insane. Phoenix, Unicorn, just in case I stole a Link 2 monster, I didn't want to make Nightmare Phoenix. If you steal Nightmare Phoenix, you want to make Hita, but if you steal another Link 2 monster that's out there, you want to make like a Link 3, so you make Unicorn. And then we have the Super Poly targets, the 2 Chimera, and then the 2 Starving Venom. So you can, like I said, you can use Super Poly against like almost any deck right now because it's good against Salad, and then it's good against any deck playing 2 Darks, which is a lot of decks. A lot of people are playing Dangers or Orcus or Pendulums play a lot of Darks. Like every deck out there is playing Dark monsters, so you can use Super Poly to summon Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. Kind of acts as a removal card that also summons a monster. For the side deck, I did something a little bit different here. Well, okay, so we played, I'll show you what I mean. So we played 3 Phantasmic, which I wish I drew more often, 2 Lancia, 2 Dino Wrestler, 3 Border. Yeah, it's a Floodgate, it's whatever, but this card is, this isn't necessary against the Thunder deck or necessary against the Salamangreat deck, but it is very good against those decks, especially going first. There's no reason not to play it, and it's also good against the control decks. It's actually, it's better against the, I don't know, it's like weird. I don't think this card is actually good against the other like decks like Altergeist, but because they're setting Inspector Border, this is like the best out to Inspector Border because you can just crash with it. And then 3 Secret Village and 2 Evenly Match. I will briefly talk about my side decking for this event. I felt that this side deck was super solid. You notice that there's 3 cards that are 3 of Secret Village, Inspector Border, Phantasme, and then 3 cards that are 2 ofs, Evenly Match, Dino Wrestler, and Lancia. So the math that I was doing, because I think it's really important to look at what you're siding in and out when you go to an event. I feel like a lot of people don't do that, but I felt like it was important here because basically my side decking strategy going first or second was that I sided in 7 cards. So for example, going second against Sky Strikers, you would side in the Evenly Matches, the Secret Village, and the Dino Wrestler. So you have 7 cards to side in. And this is important because you might think, well, I don't know if, I can't remember if I mentioned it in the discussion video, but I started going second against Sky Strikers at this event, and it super paid off. It was a super good decision. I just blew people out of the water with that. It's really unexpected. And what happened is that, like, yeah, it might seem like you want 3 evenly matched, but there's only 7 cards I want to take out. So there's no reason to play 3 of a card if I don't need to put 3 of it in, if I don't actually have a way to put 3 of it in. So you play this like going second, and you're always going second. And then like another example would be like, okay, if you're going against Thunder going second, you're going to play these 7 cards, right? So it's like, once again, you're taking out 7 cards to put in 7 cards, and once again, I don't have 9 cards to take out. You might think like, oh, what if you want to play 3 Lancia or 3 Dino Wrestler? There aren't actually 9 cards I can take out going second. Like, you can maybe cut like some of the trap cards, I guess, but so many of the trap cards are good going second, are good at breaking the Thunder Dragon board. Things like Strike can stop Hot Red Dragon Archfiend or stop like the Zombie Stein. Things like Crackdown are good for taking Colossus. So you keep those cards in, you take out some of the cards, like obviously Spoofing is terrible against the deck going second, but you just take out 7 cards, put in 7 cards, usually putting in 1 3 of, then 2 of the 2 of. Sometimes I guess you could put in like I don't know, like an extra card randomly, but my side decking strategy for the most part was take out 7, put in 7, and it worked out really well. That's why I was really happy with this deck. I was gonna play 5 3 ofs, but it just, the math didn't work out, so I wanted to fit in like another card. Basically I wanted to fit in evenly match. But yeah, I guess that's it. That's their Altergeist profile, maybe the final one for at least for a little while here. We're gonna play some other decks. I've had a good run with this deck. I think that this is finally like the build that I am most happy with. If this is truly like the final Altergeist deck list I play, I think I will be very, very satisfied. I think I'm pretty proud of this list. Hopefully you guys are too. Thanks for following me on this 1-year journey of playing Altergeist. We'll see what other decks are available. But I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.